Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
What's the worst response to, "You're under arrest"? A nose boop. ETA. Holy flarking snit. I had zero idea how much of a response this would get. Thank you, all, for the awards. Boop's nose knew thank you. Drives off. When I read this, it was Alexis in Schitt's Creek whose voice I heard tears of joy. After one of my first seizures, I booped the nose of the paramedic, who then looked at my BF with slight concern and asked if that was normal. He sighed, hand on his forehead while he nodded in the affirmative. ETA. Thanks for the award. It does help relieve tension, which is great in those situations. While not really the same, I have a similar story. When I was about 14, my sister had a psychotic breakdown, and since my parents didn't want me to see it, they basically sent me to the kitchen. It was horrifying because all I could hear was my sister screaming from the top of her lungs at my parents about how she wanted to die, and basically just guttural screams in the worst fits. She was also trying to bang her head in the floor, so my father had to hold her down with his arms and had his leg under her head to make sure she was unable to hurt herself. So while I started to freak out more and more due to the sound, I decided that I couldn't stand idly by anymore. I had to go out and help somehow. We had called the ambulance, so they were on the way as well. So I walked out in the hallway where my family was and saw the scene, and for some reason I took a red card I saw laying on the hallway cabinet. I was a football referee, and I walked up to my sister and showed her the red card. In a second she snapped out of it and she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "What are you doing? You're an idiot. But I love you." And it was calm for just a few seconds. Then her anxiety took over and we were back to where it started. But for that brief moment, there was peace. Random weirdness does wonders for stressed situations. No, I'm under the influence. Officer, I am way too drunk to get out of my car and into yours right now. Any drugs or alcohol? No thanks, I've had plenty. Is this the part where you frisk me? I always love that part, haha. Be gentle, it's my first time. Shortly followed by, please stop, I'm getting an erection. No, I'm a sovereign citizen and you are overstepping your authority. Because of maritime law or something. We had a sovereign citizen go to prison yesterday. He didn't see it coming at all. He always comes to court like, ha. Checkmate. I'm sure he was shocked his nonsense didn't work. I lived next door to one. He had several insightful bits of wisdom. I don't remember most of them, but the one that always stands out, probably because of how adamantly he proclaimed it, was that white people are all Asian. That's why we call them Caucasians. He very much liked his word play, and would enunciate words repeatedly to get his point across and validate whatever wild ass shit he believed based on the contents of the word. Also very much about the people versus corporation distinction. As his person was Sir and his corporation was Sir and so some different name. His corporation was one hell of a troublemaker. Tell you what, he was always in and out of jail for driving without a license. Which was fine because he made a living being a rapper. And by made a living being a rapper, I mean he made rap songs. And lived off of his girlfriend's wages. He walked with a cane. But it was fine, because he was very proud of being shot and looked forward to anyone asking him why he had it. Apparently dude that owned a store he was robbing had a gun and blew out his leg. I later found out from his girlfriend that the gun he used for the robbery was fake. And it wasn't his first rodeo. He would often get angry. But the only thing you had to do if he was pissed at you was bow up to him. He'd back the fuck off, and show up to apologize later. If you didn't stand up to him, man or woman, he would talk shit to you until you did. I'm sure there's more. I just can't spend any more time reminiscing. Dude was a trip. I briefly worked as a public defender in a semi-rural county, and whenever I'd get assigned to these guys I'd be like, if you think you can handle this better than I can, then go ahead. Knock yourself out. Quote, they were usually charged with Al-Qaeda type crimes like poaching or operating a powerboat in protected waters. And the evidence was usually overwhelming. Surprised Pikachu face at sentencing 100% of the time. I know you are, but what am I? No, I'm dad. Gets tazzed. Gets shot in the head 49 times. Truly a tragic suicide story. Do you know WHOIAM? Bonus. Do you know who my father thinks he is? And who my father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate is? Thanks, you too. Yes, Daddy. I had an officer check my belt area during an investigatory detention. I said, I always wanted a strong man in uniform to give me a reach around. That officer would not make eye contact with me the rest of that investigation. We got stopped at a check stop leaving a campsite a couple years ago. Myself and my buddy both had weed on us, so they asked us to step out of the car. It's legal in Canada but can't be within reach of the driver. We didn't know that at the time. One of my buddies doesn't smoke, so therefore didn't have any weed on him. The cop didn't believe him, pointed to a bulge in his pants and asked, so what's that? My buddy hummed and hawed for a minute, so the cop decided to pat him down. He grabs the bulge and my buddy finally blurts out, that's my cock. The look on the cop's face almost had me in tears. I was laughing so hard. I used to have a belt, to hold up my jeans, that had an old 80s seatbelt for a buckle. I was at a friend's house for a bachelorette party and they got a stripper. And he was making his way around the room doing his little dance thing with each of us. When he got to me, I was sitting down and he saw the buckle and said, "Is this a seatbelt? What's it for?" As he proceeded to push the center button so it came undone. Without missing a beat I said, "Yeah, it is. Safety first." He started laughing and it threw his dance off. Remains one of my wittiest comebacks to date.